Thanks for joining us on the Dallas Catholic Road Trip, where we're exploring Dallas Catholic's history in our own backyard. Episode 2 is taking us all over the diocese, from the first and the oldest Catholic churches and communities. Did you know that before any Catholic church was built in the Diocese of Dallas, that the first Mass was celebrated in the home of a carriage maker? We don't quite know his name, but we know it happened in 1859, which I think is pretty rad. However, over time, more Catholics came to the area, and as they did, they started building churches and communities around the Dallas Diocese. Today, 1.2 million Catholics live in the Diocese of Dallas, and what's exciting for us is that number's only anticipated to grow. If we go to the archives office at the Diocese of Dallas, that's where they store all the historical archives, we learned some really interesting information. Actually, the archives office published a document called Prairie Gothic. It's this visual representation of all of these historic prairie churches, and it talks a lot about their architecture and their structure and what makes them unique. The name of the structure of a lot of our prairie churches, the architectural style, is called Carpenter Gothic. It's a traditional American light frame construction type of architecture that's known for its details, like steep gables, pointed archways, barge boards, which I'm going to be honest, I have no idea what it is, but it's in my script, so I'm going to tell you that there's barge boards on these churches. And then windows, which are taken from these steeped arches that you'll see in these old English cathedrals. Anyways, so in southern Collin County, the first priest to visit was in 1880. His name was Father Tom Hennessy. I'm sure he was a big fan of the beer. In 1869, a mission center was built. And shortly after that, the very first Catholic church in the Diocese of Dallas, St. Paul's Catholic Church. Originally, the town was called Lazy Neck, but they ended up changing the name of the town because the townspeople are awesome and they wanted to name it after the church. So today, you know it as St. Paul's, Texas. However, over time, the church grew, the diocese grew, and a railroad was built through the city of Wiley, Texas, and somebody decided that it'd probably be a better idea to move St. Paul's Church there. However, the mission center was not forgotten. It's remembered today for the two swords, one for St. Paul and one for the Dallas coat of arms. In 1871, the oldest active parish today in the Diocese of Dallas, it's in Corsicana, it's Immaculate Conception Parish, was built. If we travel downtown, we'll learn that the first church built downtown was actually Sacred Heart Parish. At the time, it was the temporary cathedral because the bishop didn't have one. We hadn't built the cathedral yet downtown. The second church to be built was St. Patrick's Church. It was built 10 years later in 1882. And then in 1901, Corpus Christi Church in Oak Cliff was built, though they later changed the name to what you recognize today as Blessed Sacrament Parish. Now, what's really cool is that over all of this time, natural disasters and the expansion of the city of Dallas has threatened to destroy our churches, and yet they've survived from fires and tornadoes and floods and road construction. For example, in 1901, St. Anthony's Church was built. It's still there today. However, the church built in 1890 was destroyed by fire. St. John Nepomuk in Ennis is available today. It's one of the older churches in the diocese. However, it's the second church there because the first one was destroyed by a tornado and then rebuilt and then destroyed by not one, but two fires. Rowlett, Sacred Heart, Texas, a tornado actually moved the church right off of its foundation. It had to be repaired. Luckily, by the grace of God and some really smart engineers, it's been restored today, so you can go see it if you ever make the trip out to Rowlett. Then there's churches like St. Patrick's Church, which unfortunately was destroyed and demolished when the I-30, I-45 interchange had to be built. They reestablished the church in Lake Highlands, so you can go see it and shed a tear for the old St. Patrick's Church. Now, building all of these churches, of course, it wasn't easy. It required tons of financial contributions from the parishioners, lots of construction equipment, lots of work, and lots of effort. However, today, you and I, we're the fruit of the labor. We're the legacy of faith of all of these Catholic parishioners who have come before us in the Diocese of Dallas. The truth is that all these beautiful buildings, they're going to eventually crumble. That's what happens to buildings. But the thing that lives forever is the people of faith, you and I, who have an eternal destiny because of Jesus Christ.